You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about our hero's journey. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And joining us for our final mission of Mass Effect 3 is Kate Sánchez.
Hey, Kate.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Really excited because Mass Effect 3 is my favorite, so.
Yay. Kate was originally going to join us for an earlier episode, but due to the cacophony of ridiculousness that was 2020 and 2021, we had to postpone. But thankfully, we had an opening at the very last minute, and so Kate was able to join us before the season wrapped, and I'm so excited to have you here for this mission. Kate, before we get into your Mass Effect experience, though, why don't you tell folks a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I am Kate Sánchez. I'm editor-in-chief and co-founder at But Why Though. We're a entertainment website that does news, reviews, recaps, interviews, all of those things on video games, comics, books, anime, manga, literally everything. The only thing we don't do is music because we had to rein it in somewhere. Believe me, I keep trying to write about BTS and they keep telling me, Kate, we don't have a music section. The cool thing about us, though, or the extra cool thing, is we do it all from a diverse perspective. The majority of the folks over there come from a marginalized background, and we see But Why Though as being a place for people to use their voices when a lot of the times, they may not get that chance. So we built the platform from nothing, been around for 3 years now. We do a lot of nerdy stuff, and we got a Discord where we do even more nerdy stuff. And sports lately... Everybody's been streaming Euros and Copa, and I'm just like, oh yes, that is a hot man running down the field. I'll watch this. So that's what you can expect from my community and kind of where I situate. Oh, and I'm a critic. I do film and manga and TV and games. I'm a critic.
And if But Why Though sounds familiar, it's probably because you have been listening also to our Brother in Arms podcast, Massively Affected, which is on their beautiful site and a part of their family and previous guest, Josh Silverman. I was the debut episode of that season, which is now, as of when we're recording, coming to a close. It's come and gone so fast.
I close out his season, too.
Also talking
about Mass Effect 3.
Amazing. You found yourself a niche.
I did.
Man, if I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice. Kate, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Mass Effect, what brought you to the games, your personal journey with it?
Yeah, so my handle on Twitter is OMMythRandier. It's a Lord of the Rings reference. I like high fantasy. And as much as I have liked sci-fi for a lot of my life, the only types of video games that I really found myself playing were games in the high fantasy genre, right? So, Bethesda owned my soul for a little bit. And I was pretty much, I didn't want to go around on a spaceship. I wanted the emotional connections and the art, the RPGs for me. When I thought space game, I thought, pew pew, fly around. Nothing else. And so I avoided them. And then I was talking in my astronomy astronomy study group when I was an undergrad. 1 and 2 were already out. And we were talking about video games. And I was like, no, I've never played Mass Effect. I'm not going to play Mass Effect. I don't care about a third one. What the hell are y'all talking about? And then my friend in the group was like, look, I have 1 and 2. Play through both of them. And then you can tell me if you don't like them, and you can go ahead and rain on everybody's parade. And I was like, okay, you know what? Fine. I am not going to be the person who talks mess about something without being a part of it. So I started playing, and I fell in love, and I played through his copies 3 times, and then I went and I bought my own copies, and I played through them more. And at the time, I was working at GameStop kind of inconsistently. I would drive back home to San Antonio to work a weekend shift, that kind of stuff. So I pre-ordered the collector's edition, which is another city, an hour away. So at midnight when it launched, I got my boyfriend at the time to drive me to San Antonio to pick up Mass Effect 3, just so I could get my collector's edition and play immediately. Also did not go to school that day. All my classes were gone. I played till I completed the game. And that's where I am. And I said it on Josh's show, and I'll say it again, is there are some pieces of media that I don't talk about online because I don't want the discourse. I don't like, there are some things that are so, I guess, like sacred to me, like they feel like they're a piece of me that I just don't want to have that conversation with other people or open it up. And it's not that I'm not there for discussions. I mean, obviously I'm here, but there's a difference once you kind of let people see it and Twitter gets a hold of it. So for me, those two things that have been extremely impactful in how I judge storytelling and how I kind of frame every character I ever make in any RPG ever, it's Lord of the Rings and it's Mass Effect. And I have a couple of others, but those are two that I've been very guarded on. More people are like, oh, you love this? I was like, yeah, I love it a lot. Probably too much, but I'm just, it's for me. And I think that it's, especially being somebody who is a pop culture critic and is expected to talk about everything all the time, there are some things where I just have to be like, no, this is mine. You can go get my opinion on other things, but this is mine. Please go away. But yeah, that's my story.
Well, thank you for kind of breaking that rule of yours and joining us to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's get into some choices that you've made throughout the games and what choices reflect your most ideal world state. Would you consider your playthroughs to be more Paragon or more Renegade?
More Paragon. Only because it goes from, like, punch somebody in the face to commit genocide. So, like, the Paragon Renegade skill, like, that it's not a spectrum at all.
It's a sharp left turn.
It escalates real quick. But I actually think I'm genuinely I tend to run more Paragon when I run stuff, when I'm not doing like the obvious like max out for choices thing, because I form such good connections with characters that I have a hard time leaving them behind. I have a hard time not intervening. I have a hard time in those situations because Mass Effect is honestly the only game where I felt that deeply connected to every character, not just my proxy self in the game. So yeah, Paragon.
What's your favorite class?
Vanguard.
Yeah, one of us.
Yes, that one was easy.
I think I can guess, but what happened to the Rachni Queen?
She's fine.
Yeah, she's fine. Doing good.
I love that. Fine. She's fine.
Raising her billions of children in a different system.
Did not. And I almost cried when I did it for my Renegade playthrough.
Sure. Yeah. You're in good company. You're in very good company.
Did Rex make it out of Vermeer?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. And I know that there are some people who have not. I did find out that my co-host on our podcast, when we did our Mass Effect episode, he didn't even know that he could save him because his charisma wasn't up enough to save him. So he got real sad. He was like, dude, Rex is the bro. He's the bro of the series. He was like, oh no. So he went back through and replayed it. But yes, he's my baby. I love him with all my damn heart.
Hell yeah.
Who is your go-to Vermeer survivor? Oh, the face.
Yeah.
If only y'all could see Kate right now.
I have
the squishy cheeks.
I have never completed a game with Ashley.
Yes.
Okay.
She's a space racist, and I leave her to die every time. I can't. I've tried, but I can't. I usually just like, well, I'm just going to go back to that save because she's annoying.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. What becomes of the council? Do you save them?
I let them go. Well, so I've let them go more times than I've saved them, and it's just because they're not great. They're not great. And I think it's the little anti-establishment part of me, but also it's like, if they're gone, we can make this slightly less militaristic. So yeah, I usually choose to just no.
All right. And who becomes the ambassador for Earth?
Yeah, Anderson.
Of course. Space Dad. We all love our
Yep.
Space Dad.
We love our space dad. Do you choose to kill or rewrite the Geth?
Rewrite. I can't. That hurt my soul. That hurts my soul to kill them. Also, they're kind of hot, so you gotta let them live.
I love that. You're probably the first robot lover we've had on the pod.
Not true.
Oh,
I'm sure we've had
I
others.
got a lot of love for them. Have you seen Legion's booty?
Yeah, that's true. Legion does have a nice booty. You're not wrong.
What becomes of the collector base?
This one I don't remember.
You either blow it up or give it to the elusive man.
Yeah.
So I think I've never felt really connected to this one. No, I've blown it up each time.
Okay.
With the exception of once. Yeah, I've blown it up each time. I think it's because that was one of the easy ones where I wasn't
Yeah.
racked with anything. It was like, oh, this is easy.
Fuck the elusive man.
Yes, fuck the elusive man.
elusive man.
110%.
And how about romance throughout 1 and 2?
Garrus, Garrus, I can't do it in 1, but 2 is Garrus. Garrus is my baby. He's my husband. And I think Liara was 1. I think most of my Emmy 1 I don't actually play through with romances. When I realized that I could keep Garrus, when I realized the beauty of Garrus, because I've always been drawn to Garrus.
Yeah.
I when I replayed Mass Effect 1, I couldn't cheat on my man. I couldn't do it.
You're in good company. There are a lot of Garrus stands on this podcast.
I have the body pillow, so
I do too.
Yay.
I'm holding out for that Thane body pillow. It's coming.
Oh, Daddy Thane.
They made it
Daddy
once.
Thane. Did they really?
I found it somewhere once. I will try and find it again and send it to
There's
you.
just something about fish-looking man creatures that I'm like, yes, please.
I can't argue. Cannot argue.
It's a very queer point of view.
Should be romanceable for male shepherd.
Doug Jones is Daddy Thane in a live-action Mass Effect, please.
Oh, that would be amazing. Doug Jones would be an amazing Thane.
And if you all don't know who Doug Jones is, he's the asset in The Shape of Water. So you know he has a nice asset.
Yes.
All right.
Alrighty.
Let's get into this summary.
Yeah, do it. I believe in you.
I'm glad somebody does, because I sure as shit don't. Shepard finally returns to Earth to take the fight to the Reapers. Instead of hitting the Citadel directly, Shepard must join the ground war with Admiral Anderson. Shepard's team is one of the few to make it through to Earth and must pick up the slack when the team meant to take out the AA gun goes down. Shepard gets a chance to say final goodbyes before beginning the push through No Man's Land toward the beam that will take them directly up to the Citadel and behind enemy lines. After taking out a Reaper destroyer, it is a frantic run as a Harbinger-class Reaper tries to stop them. Their squad sustains heavy damage and they must evacuate, leaving Shepard behind to make the final push. When a Reaper's beam hits, it seems as if Shepard's mission is over. But they get back up again and limp their way to the beam. Once on the Citadel, Shepard and Anderson are confronted by the elusive man. No matter how the altercation ends, Shepard gets the Citadel arms open and the Crucible docks. Except, it doesn't fire. Shepard finally meets the mind behind the Reaper solution, the Catalyst. It is up to Shepard how everything will end. Will they choose destroy, control, synthesis, or will they find another way?
Whew. All right. I'm already starting to feel it. This is going to go real well.
I know. It's been years since I've played this, and just having MJ read it, I'm just like, it hits me in my feels still.
Yeah. Well, with that, Kate, what's the hardest part of this mission for you? Because there's a lot here, but what weighs the heaviest on you?
It's hard to think about, right? Because there's so much that happens, and I think what weighs the heaviest, and this may just be a cop-out answer, but it really is just the final decision, because for me, it is the ending of a very big journey. It's an end, like for me when I played it through the first time, because all of my, I guess, the canon playthroughs where I played like most like myself or my first playthroughs, the fact that I had been Shepard through all of it and seen the end of the story, that final decision, like I knew in my gut what to do, but it was the idea that when I made it was done. And so for me, that is what got me. And I don't want to say that like it's the most emotional piece, but like I remember sitting in front of my TV completely like sleep deprived and just like, okay, I know what I have to do, but do I actually want to do this right now? Because it's over. It's kind of like when you don't watch the last episode of a TV show that got canceled. Like, it never really ended.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So that's what it is for me.
I mean, that's perfectly legit, and I know that MJ and I felt that as well, and we'll get more into that in a minute. Really briefly, before we go into the bulk of the mission, there are some minor check-ins on the ship before we leave it. Nothing really worth going over, except one for me that I know MJ does not have.
That's also what I want to talk about, so...
Excellent.
Look at us being on the same page. Almost like we've known each other for 12 years.
So you get some moments to say goodbye. You get a brief conversation with Trainer where she salutes you and thanks you for being a role model. You get to talk to Joker, who thanks you, brings up the Nihilist mission and like how everything's come full circle. And these are all really powerful. You know, not every crew member has one. But the one I really want to talk about is one that MJ can't have because it is dependent on relationship. So I romance Kaden, which left me walking in on Talia and Garrus making out.
Yes.
Which is never not hilarious to me. They get so awkward. It's amazing.
Get it, babes.
I know for the stands of the relationships with those characters, it's weird. But as someone who never canonically often romanced them, I was like, you go. You be happy. Go for it. It was just really delightful. And they stammer for a solid 2 minutes trying to think of excuses.
He's like, because they're both so awkward.
It's so good. My mandibles got stuck in her suit and there was a puncture. And so we were making sure that she wasn't going to die. And they just trail off after a while. It was great.
All I will say is I would proudly be a part of that throuple.
Right?
So.
That is a poly triad that I would be proud to be part of.
Yes.
And Tally would be down. Garrus might need some convincing, but Tally's in. It's totally fine.
Garrus would need some convincing, but Garrus just wants you to be happy. So you just have to explain why it would make you happy. He's like, okay, I don't understand it, Shepard, but let's go.
Exactly. So when I walked in, I did see Tally and Garrus hanging out, and they were just chatting, making final wagers, being friends. And I really like that because they are the two that were with you the longest. They're the two that always had your backs, and it makes sense for them to like come together and spend time with each other before the final push, whether it's platonically or romantically. Like, as Matt said, I didn't get the romance between them, obviously, because I romanced Garrus. But even if I hadn't romanced Garrus, if I had romanced someone else and this had happened, I would still support them because they're the two people that I care about the absolute most on the team. They're my two favorite people. I love them the most. They always stuck up for me. They always had my back, and they deserve all the happiness in the world. And if that's found in each other, then that's great. And it's just disappointing that the game doesn't let me date both of them at the same time. That's it. Like, we could all be having a tender moment.
I love it.
I do have one thing, and I completely forgot that I wanted to look it up. Diana Allers. When you talk to her, she tells you that Bekenstein was destroyed.
Right, her colony that was right alongside the Citadel.
And she doesn't really say much to you. She just says, like, I was a colony kid. Bekenstein had a factory, so it was just outright destroyed. And it was, you know, kind of a sad moment. But what made it sadder for me is before you hit the CIC, Trainer tells you that you have an email, and it's from Diana. And I just wanted to share this letter because it made me very emotional. And I was like, oh no, it's starting already. And it was the thing that kind of started me getting really upset throughout the entire playthrough. So, from Diana Allers. Commander, I don't know if you're aware how much you mean to people, but I am. The things I see in Battlespace's mailbox can make a Geth grow tear ducts. Page after page of people asking you to go save their mother's planet, or the homeworld that they outgrew, or the mining colony they sank their fortunes into. They don't know that you can't do it all. They just know Commander Shepard beat a Reaper once and can do it again. I know how they feel. When I heard about Beckenstein, it was like all the nerves in my body were cut. But I need to believe that this isn't the end. I need to believe that you're going to destroy the Reapers, and I'm going to film it as it happens. And when the fight is over, and my signal goes out on the tight beam, people are going to come together from all over the galaxy. They're going to watch from their couches, and they'll celebrate. And one day, they'll laugh again. The laughing part is important. I want you to make it all normal again, Shepard. Because that's the best revenge I can think of.
Tell me why I'm tearing up.
P.S. If I end up making it out of this, but you don't, I'll make sure you get a hero's funeral and a Beckenstein wake. That's like an Irish wake, but not as sober and reserved.
Oh, man, the writing.
And I really want a video of Jessica Chobot reading it.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that email hits
really
pretty hard.
emotional.
And it's the last email you get before the final push, the final mission. There's no other communication.
Yeah. And that's why it was important for me to, read it, because it is the beginning of all the feelings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one of the things for me, kind of because having you read that and then just kind of I haven't had to really think about my Mass Effect 3 playthrough. And I say I played it till it was done. And I think a lot of that wasn't just because I wanted to binge the game and go through it. I think a lot of it was everything that happens in Mass Effect 3 holds so much weight that I felt bad stepping away. I didn't feel like I could pause it, right?
Right.
I just had to keep moving forward. I'm in my feels now. I'm just a trauma mic. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster for him here on out. And so before we hit the CIC, MJ and I both wanted to share our assets before discussing the ending because there are some shifts. And so my total war assets was 4,082 war assets. A little breaking the fourth wall, I have also since completed the Legendary Edition, and my assets were 3,000 higher, which is interesting. So I don't know if maybe I missed missions here or what. But so I'm at 4,082. What about you, MJ?
Was that your total or your effective?
Total.
Your total?
Yeah, my total.
Because my total military strength was 8,212, and my effective is 4,106.
Well, then maybe
it cuts by 50% because of the...
Oh, that's right. So then that was probably my effective war assets.
That's why I was like...
Oh, that's why. That's why the numbers are so different, is because
the worst ending.
The remaster doesn't have the
It doesn't have the 50%.
Right.
Yeah. Because
That's
it's
right.
at 50% if you don't do the multiplayer at all.
Which we did not.
Right.
Okay. So we know those numbers, and those may or may not affect the final outcome, sort of.
I really just wanted to know so I can know that I beat you.
Yeah, yes, you beat me. Congratulations. You win. So the mission starts with, after we choose Earth, we are boarded by the ever-regal and incredibly awesome Admiral Hackett, who is here to orchestrate the final push. He gives an inspiring speech as we see all of the races who have offered to help, and we don't see the ones who haven't, which is mostly just the Solarians because they suck. And and then it's the final push to Earth, where we can finally reunite with Anderson, where we get a final video call with Anderson to get kind of the down low of why we're going to London, why that part of Earth.
Can I just say, as Admiral Hackett walks throughout the Normandy, you get a lot of focusing in on his butt.
You do.
I don't even know why. It just focuses on his butt a lot as he walks. And I'm just like, I mean, it's not necessarily a great butt. That uniform does him no favors.
That's true. Long coat, can't see anything.
It's an interesting choice, but okay.
From here, we then, of course, board a shuttle and head towards Earth. And we get reunited with our dad.
There were some interesting visual things along the way as the war begins in earnest between the... Let's just call them the Alliance ships, even though it's not just the Alliance and the Reapers. every ship on side of the Alliance had blue weapons fire, and all of the Reapers had red weapons fire.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if you noticed that. The teams are sword, hammer, and shield. Hammer is taking the ground, sword is the ships in space, and shield are the ships that are protecting the Crucible. Throughout this cutscene, we see some wins, we see some Reapers get taken out, but we see just as many losses as the Normandy weaves through. And before Shepard even leaves the Normandy to get onto the shuttle, Joker gets up for a salute.
Yeah.
And I should have been able to hug him.
Yeah, I want a Paragon trigger to hug Joker.
Yes.
Hug your friends! Earth looks real bad.
Yeah, lots of fire spots. Like, we commented on how bad Palaven looks when you first get there, and, like, Earth definitely looks worse at this point. And, like, even once we get on the shuttle, like, Steve shows us video of the battlefield, and it's just desolate. Cars abandoned. You know, it looks like a post-apocalyptic movie.
Buildings destroyed, cars burning everywhere.
And it's easy to forget the timeline of this game because everything feels so urgent. And if you play it in a sitting or two, as some of us did in those early days, it doesn't feel as long. But it's only been months, but it's also been months. Like, there's a weight to that on both ends. And you see it here in the decimation.
I think it's been 6 months.
Yeah. I think
that's the timeline of the game.
It's either 4 or 6. It's something like that. But yeah, it's not been a long time, but also feels like an eternity since that first mission where you leave.
Yeah. Who did you take?
Oh, yes. So I kept the same party for both missions.
Yeah, I did too.
Both this first part and the second part. And I decided, well, I took my boyfriend, Caden, because of course I did. And then I took James. I developed a pretty strong relationship with James Vega in this playthrough. I like him. He's my human Krogan, as I call him. And, like, I really love his character development, and it just felt right taking the two Earthlings with me back to Earth. Like, it came full circle, because we left together, you know? Right. And that cyclical nature of this playthrough and how I bonded with these characters, it made sense to bring the two of them.
I honestly thought about bringing Ashley and James, but I brought Garrus and Tally because of course I did, because they're my mains. Because I needed that comfort. I needed those people who have been with me since the beginning to have my back, to see me through to the end.
That's what I did too when I played, except I think it's been forever. I don't even remember what my last crew was. But I remember it was Garrus, and I remember it was my thought was your thought. They've been with me since I started this. Yeah. Like, I can't take anybody else. That and the other people that I used to take all the time died. So, like, I used to take Morden and Garrus on everything. And, you know, well, here we go. More pain.
So much pain.
Yeah. There's something that feels, like, not wholesome, but, like, just whole. Like, going on a final mission with people that were with you from the past. Like, there's just something about carrying that with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's narratively validating.
Yeah, I would agree. So the AA gun mission itself, so we get a look at the battlefield, and then it turns out the other shuttle accompanying you gets shot down, and they were the ones who were supposed to make a run at the cannon and take it out. So Shepard decides, well, it's got to get done. So, of course, I got to do the shit that everybody else can't get done. So that's Shepard's motto at this point. And so you make a run for it. And the combat is pretty straightforward at this point. Both of us are Vanguard. Oh, no, you're not a Vanguard. That's right.
I'm a Sentinel.
You're a Sentinel. But, like, both of us have everything maxed out. We're at max level. So the combat here has its challenges, but for the most part is pretty routine. And, we fight our way to the gun, to the crashed shuttle, which is supposed to have heavy weapons. And it has the familiar from Mass Effect 2, Kane, which is it's essentially a controlled nuclear blast, and you fire it at the cannon, and it goes boom.
I gotta say, I felt like a one grenade kill was really anticlimactic. Because, like, right? I fired it, it hit, and I'm like, okay. And then it completely blew up, and it was over. I was like, okay.
Why don't we have more of these guns? It would make this a lot easier.
Who made this? Why isn't everybody using this? What's happening? Yeah, I felt like it was really anticlimactic. And then you just have to survive until evac.
Yeah. I did forget to mention on the run up to this, Steve gets shot down. They give you this panicked moment where you yell for him and he's fine. There's like no tension because it resolves so fast.
I did really appreciate, though, when you tell him to get safe, he says anything for you. And I'm just like, that's right, because we're friends. Us queer people gotta stick together, Steve.
But so then you need evac from someone else, and it turns out you get evac from our very own dad, Anderson, and Commander Cole. Is that his?
Major Coates.
Major.
Not even close.
Not even close. This is why I have to
you
take better notes.
I don't know who that is.
Major Coates, a local to London who has been helping in the war effort with Anderson. Did you take the most important Paragon trigger in this moment when you're reunited with your dad to shake his hand?
Where you kind of hug him? Yeah.
Yeah, where you kind of hug him? You gotta.
It's not a good enough hug, but okay.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. He's my dad. He's a better dad than I ever had.
I'm just going to move on past that one. So yeah.
It's
so we're
no secret.
That's
Reignite
true.
Listeners know my dad sucked.
That's true. So we get the download from Anderson. He lets us know what's going on in the battlefield and what the final push is going to look like, and that we're heading to a base to kind of like put together the last parts of the plan to make this final push.
This is also the moment when Shepard gets to have final check-ins, like actually meaningful goodbyes with people. First we encounter is James, who is totally heartbroken by the horror in the streets. He's really trying to put up a brave face, but he is also being very genuine. And also, he has a special handshake with Shepard. It's very nice.
It's very cute.
It's adorable.
It's very bro-y, and I like it.
He's my favorite himbo.
Was Caden next for you?
Yes, and so Caden was next for me, and it's really touching. They wrote Caden really well. It makes me angrier that you can't have a relationship with Caden until now. But Caden, I mean, look, we've made jokes the entire series of this podcast that he's a marshmallow, right? And that by the third game, he's a toasted marshmallow.
He's a toasted marshmallow.
Because he's got a little bit of edge. But I love that him being soft in these moments is not queer baiting. It's not like cliche queer. It's genuine to his character and his love for Shepard in these moments. And so, you talk about how this could be our last moments. You mentioned his biotic squad, which he's reconnected with and are on the front lines helping. They're young and eager, and they have this commiserating moment where they talk about being old soldiers, old war horses. And then, Shepard has this real moment where he says, this could be it. This could be goodbye. And one of Caden's lines that I wrote down that hit me like a punch to the chest was, I'm going to fight like hell to hold you again. And I was just like, ugh.
I will say, Caden is not doing anything with Caden, not romancing Caden, and not really utilizing him at all. Like, I didn't care about Caden because of... Mm-hmm. I didn't think he was written well in Mass Effect 1. And then hearing you talk about him, hearing you talk about this scene, and then we did a Mass Effect panel where... I forget who it was, but somebody talked about like the depth that he has as a character as you do talk and grow with him. I really regret not. I think that's my one Mass Effect regret is not really caring about Caden. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
No, it does. A lot of people have experienced that, I think.
Yeah, these characters, because one of them was meant to die in the first game, got the short shrift. But Caden, they turned it around a little bit in the third game, at least more so than Ashley, based on what we've experienced in this playthrough.
So disappointed in Ashley.
But, I learned that, I purposely explored everything with these characters, because as these characters are based on us, I'm an inquisitive person. I want to get to know people. I'm a people pleaser. And that made me discover this care for Caden that we joked about in the first two seasons that came full circle in the third season. And then, Shepard's about to walk away after that somber moment, and Caden pulls him in, and they kiss. And then Shepard leaves. And it's just such a tender and beautiful moment. And I'm so glad that they give that, because Caden's romance has changed. I mean, getting to know Caden through these playthroughs, but specifically falling in love with the character quite literally, has changed my complete perspective on him. And I'm grateful and excited that I got to explore my own queerness through this character in a way that I wouldn't have even thought to when I first played it when I was younger. So enough about that.
No, more about it forever. That's all the episode is about now. Forget everything else.
After this, we get to go to Dial a Friend.
Well, I talked to Ashley.
Oh, right. I forgot that Ashley's
I know,
there
she's
also.
easy to forget. It's upsetting that she's so easy to forget. So, my reason for rescuing Ashley, for Kate's knowledge, for saving her on Vermeer, was because of her bond with her sisters. She is so loving towards her family, and she tells you these stories about how she crossed star systems just to walk her sister home from school because a boy had, like, intimidated her, or tried to intimidate her, and tried to take advantage of her. And the pride that Ashley feels in her sisters when they stand up for themselves and they're strong young women. And there was just something there for me about it. But ever since then, they do a terrible job following through on that core aspect of Ashley's personality and her values. When they try to touch on it earlier in the game, they created a character who was supposed to be Ashley's sister who looked nothing like her, who is a pale ginger compared to Ashley. I'm just like, no, that's wrong. Like, that person is not related to Ashley. I don't know who that is. But I was really disappointed in this final goodbye with her. Like, there is a nice moment where Shepard and Ashley talk about how they saved each other multiple times and how they were there for each other. But again, there was no reference to Ashley's family, the people that she's fighting for, like the people who keep her going. And it's just a continued disservice to the character that could have developed, who could have grown, who we could have seen, like, turn around and say, you know, I had some shitty views a few years ago, but then I saw what Cerberus was about and realized I didn't want to be like them. And that could explain why she's so hard against Cerberus. But they just didn't put any thought into her, or any care into her character. And this moment, I'm just like, and now I'm never going to save Ashley ever again because it is not worth my time narratively.
We're going to get to it in just a few moments, but there is a character we've hated on all season that gets more growth than Ashley, and it makes me angry because he's a character who's not been around as long. But we'll get to that in a minute. After this, now, we go to the goodbye phone.
The goodbye phone.
You get to speak to a private, I believe, who's operating a comm line, and you can video chat with pretty much all of the characters who you've interacted with over the last 2 games that aren't there. Grunt, and Jacob, and Zaid, and Kasumi, and so on and so forth.
No Zaid for me.
Grunt is a perfect baby.
Grunt is a perfect baby.
Grunt is a perfect baby.
He's my lizard son. And so, yeah, so we get to have, like, words with everybody. And they're all, you know, all of it is fairly personal. I feel like the ones that got the most attention were, like, Miranda. Clearly, they want to show you that she's come full circle and she's learned and she cares. And I appreciate that. You know, and then, of course, Grunt, who is just excited to be punching things. And that's why we love him.
I want to highlight Jack.
Okay.
Because Jack, who we know to be very brash, very in your face, very, like, reveling in violence and using her abilities and feeling good when she uses her abilities, because there's a satisfaction in being able to do something and doing it well, and that Jack does violence very well, so yes. I get it to an extent. But in this conversation, I felt like her voice was so strained, and she was trying so hard to put on that, like, yeah, we're gonna kill him, I guess. And I think it's because she has adapted to being more of a nurturer because she cares about her biotic kids. And she's just like, my kids are in a war. I'm just not happy about it.
That was a really good point. I'd never thought about that before.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, like, Courtney Taylor's performance has been stellar through both games, and I love it more and more. I ended up falling for Jack in the second game, and then we mutually amicably broke up in the third. We're very much adults about it. But, like, yeah, and I think a lot of the characters really get that. You know, I mean, Zaid, it's kind of a couple of quips, and, you know, Jacob also is, you know, continues to bro out with you, but, like, they really try really hard here with these messages to really give you a chance to kind of wrap stuff up. Samara is as regal as ever and, is just clearly proud of you and proud of what you've accomplished. And this existed before Citadel DLC did. And so, like, to give you this closure before we get the real closure of Citadel is still really nice. It can feel like not enough, though. I can see that. But having the breadth and width of what we've done in the finalized version, I think that this is all really well done. It is just very funny to go, dial this person. It ends. Dial that person. It ends. Dial that
communications
person.
Tech. Is there anyone you want to talk to, communications tech?
Right. So from here, we move on through the facility. We encounter your boyfriend.
My boyfriend. Giving orders. He's such a strong leader. So the Turians are saying to him, like, the Krogans don't want to share. And Garrus is like, that's just Rex. Tell him I have, like, some whiskey for him. He'll be fine. We're friends. It's okay. I love him so much. This is a very tender and beautiful scene with him. When Shepard approaches, she says, just like old times, and her voice breaks. And Garrus has this moment of being like, we might not be able to say that ever again. And Shepard's like, because we're gonna die? And he's like, no, because nothing will ever be like old times after this. We're gonna retire somewhere tropical and warm, and we're gonna see what a Turian human baby looks like. And he was just very aggressively optimistic about it. He's like, no, nothing bad is going to happen. We're gonna get our happy ending. And oh, my sweet, sweet bird man.
If I remember when I was playing, there's always a moment where a character that's as logical and realistic as Garrus is going the optimistic route, where I was just like, crap, this is gonna hurt. Because, like, a character like Garrus never has optimism like that. And it just kind of, like, I felt like it was a really good moment to just set up the pain you're about to feel.
Yeah, definitely. Some things, when he suggests seeing what a Turian human baby looks like, my Shepard was like, okay, but maybe let's adopt. Maybe let's just adopt and not try and do that. And Garrus launches off my favorite post-Mass Effect headcanon that should Shepard survive, he and Shepard adopt a bunch of baby Krogan.
I love that.
Yes.
That's
excellent.
my favorite. My favorite line from this conversation is when Garrus says, it'd be an awfully empty galaxy without you. And also when Shepard tells him, if I don't make it and you do, you'll never be alone. And that, like, hit me really hard. Because, of course, like, whenever, like, big romantic things happen, I think about how this moment would play out with my spouse, who is a real person that I love. Who's a real flesh and blood person that I love. And, like, how difficult this would be, how utterly painful, and how much I would be crying if I have to entertain this thought that there is a future where we are not together.
Well, when you put it like that, that's a big old... that's a truck to the chest.
Thanks for that.
I warned you there would be crying today. I don't know why no one believed me.
I do want to point out that the conversation between best friend Shep and relationship Shep are almost the same. And that's what I love about Garrus as a character, is that he doesn't change that much to be with you. He's the same person and, is true to himself. And, like, the conversation about retiring somewhere together is consistent with male Shep. If I don't make it, I'll be smiling down on you conversation also is consistent through both. The one change is Garrus goes, so if we don't make it, I believe there's a saying that James taught me that you humans use, which is...
Oh, he says that to...
Oh, he does that too?
Yeah.
Let you be dead a half hour, or no more than a half hour before the devil knows you're dead.
May you be in heaven half an hour before the devil knows you're dead.
Yeah.
I think that's how it goes.
And it's a really sweet moment. And there's a Paragon trigger here for the friendship where, as Garrus is starting to talk about, like, how it's going to wrap up, you can bring him in and give him the, like, half bro hug. And
you can smooch the heck out of him.
I'm sure. Oh, is that a Paragon trigger?
Yeah,
to
that's
smooch
a
the heck
Paragon.
up.
Just
Nice.
smooch the heck out of
Smooch
him.
the heck. I will say that's why I love Garrus, or why I always romance him, and why I've had a crush on Garrus since I first ever saw the character, is because it's respect. It's a relationship built on respect. Like whether it's the friendship or the romance, it's about respecting each other. That I think it's not done enough in romances in any medium.
I completely agree. Any romance I engage in usually has this basis of, like, we were best friends first. I built up my respect for you, and your respect for me is mutual, and that's what makes us a good, like, match for each other, because we're a team, we're a partnership, and
Right.
It
Yes.
doesn't matter what happens. We're still going to be supportive of each other, and we're still going to care about each other.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
That's why I value him a great deal.
After this conversation with Garrus, we of
It's
course
another
have to
fucking turret.
another goddamn turret. Boy, did they love the turrets in the 2000s.
Why did they love turrets? I hate them. They're so boring. I'm trying to have tender goodbyes with my friends. I'm about to die. Just let me, like, say goodbye in peace.
It's pointless. There's no enemy counter. There's no like health bar. Like you're just shooting fodder for the experience until a jet comes through and bombs the lane and kills everything that was approaching. It's a very pointless section. Didn't need to be there. Still doesn't need to be there, but it is what it is. It's also short, so fine.
Blech.
But after this, we get to talk to our good buddy Rex, who is commanding his troops. What?
Oh, I have Liara Javik then.
Oh, maybe it is Liara first and then Javik and Rex. Let's do your order just because maybe I'm misremembering.
Liara has a gift for us. It is embracing eternity again. I didn't quite understand what the gift was. I think maybe it was just this moment of peace where the two of you can just kind of be
Yeah.
before a calm before the storm, so to speak. It was a sweet moment. Liara, like, links her arm with yours and she rests her head on your shoulder, and to me that really cements this theory that Liara is always going to be in love with Shep no matter what.
Yeah, that she cares for Shepard a great deal, regardless of whether what romantic end or what. There's love there that is intense because of the relationship Liara and Shepard have had,
Yeah.
romantic or otherwise. Yeah, it's a beautiful, sweet moment. I think, the gift is just giving time to them outside of the battlefield, seeing this beautiful horizon and kind of just having a moment of peace.
Which is nice. It's very sweet. It's very considerate.
It is. After this, we talk to Javik, who, like, he's softened. Not completely, but, like, it's not about... this conversation is not about the Protheans being better or everyone else being bad or should be enslaved by the Protheans or any of that imperialistic nonsense. He's come to terms with where they are, respects Shepard, and talks about how this is a battle unlike anything that's come before, and that it's different because Shepard's gotten further than anyone has before, even the Protheans. And it's a really good moment. I don't think it's earned as well because the conversation arc with Javik is a little muddled, but I still think it is a good moment and a better moment that we get with Ashley. There feels like growth here with his character that you just never get with a character who's been with you through 3 games.
I agree with you. There are a couple of things that he says that really stuck out to me. Like, he envies our cycle because the future is still out there, and that's not something anyone in his cycle could ever say. There will be a tomorrow, he says. He also tells Shepard that they're the avatar of this cycle and his time has passed.
Yep.
The last Prothean voice has spoken. He tells you of his plans, that when this is over, he's going to find the graves of his squad and he's going to put himself to rest with them as well. Because what's the point in him living in this cycle any longer?
It's sad. And like...
It is.
And Shepard just kind of accepts it, which is
honestly,
interesting.
what the fuck can I tell you?
That's true.
Like, I can't talk you out of it.
It reminded me of the end of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Where, you're just kind of gone. And I really liked this. And it is weird, but I really like that you pointed out the growth and stuff. Because I feel like I am a sucker for any type of storytelling that has a fighter, like, finally just stop fighting. Because, like, sometimes, and I feel this with Shepard, too, sometimes when you've been fighting, death or putting yourself to rest may seem awful, but, like, for him, it's not. It's reuniting and actually getting to just be.
Yeah.
And I think it's depressing. It's extremely depressing, but it's also really powerful. And I'm just a sucker for that trope for fighters.
Yeah, same. I mean, it reminds me honestly of Endgame. You know, and Iron Man and Endgame, and it's a similar kind of thing. Like, now you can rest, and like the idea that Javik knows that he knows that his time is coming to an end, and he's made peace with that regardless of what happens next, and he knows that Shepard will be able to do what they couldn't because he's seen what Shepard can do. Yeah, I really like it comes through. There's a Paragon trigger here to shake his hand, and I do.
Yeah, I do.
I don't want to leave a guy hanging. I'm not like that. And then after this, we get to leave the area and see Rex addressing his troops. He's a fantastic leader, revving them up for the battle. When you talk to him, he talks about how I can't remember.
Bakara.
Bakara sends her regards and is already pregnant and wants to name the child Morden. He doesn't understand why.
Gee, I wonder.
Aww.
Dummy.
What a dummy. But that says he couldn't imagine anyone else being at the front of the lines, you know, being here. He saw it all the way back when, and it's just, he's ready to make the final push with you. You know, another character who's been with you since the beginning and is ready to walk into hell with you without a second thought.
Yeah. Next, I spoke to Tally.
Okay.
And what stood out to me about Tally was, or the first thing she says to you is, "Are you okay?" And if you try and deflect, she's just like, no, not what I asked you. I asked if you're okay. And like, who among us has not had this conversation with our strong friend?
Yep.
Just like, no. Tell me how you're feeling.
She cares so much about you, and like, it doesn't matter if you romanced her, if you're friends with her, she loves you so much, and she cares about you so much, and she just wants you to, like, you know, be okay in the long run. That's all she cares about.
And you get to be honest with her if you choose, which I did, and I'm sure MJ did as well. Just like, he compares it to going back to Rannoch, except it's not been stories passed down through generations. It was a few months ago. Like, you lived it both times, and that was really powerful. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. I love the evolution of Mark Mear's performance since the first game. He's a great voice actor, but he just comes into his own here. And in this moment with Tali, like, his voice breaks. He's looking down. Like, Shepard, for the first time, is not confident, doesn't feel good. You know, Shepard's always running and moving forward. And, like, these goodbyes give Shepard a time to process and actually engage with what they're feeling. And I love seeing it here, especially with Tali. And we're going to get a little more of that with Edie in just a minute. Like, I love that they leave this room for Shepard to breathe and have a moment. And there'll be some more.
Yeah. When we approach Edie, she asks about our odds, and there is a tone in her voice that makes Shepard ask, "Are you scared?" And Edie does what Shepard did 2 seconds ago. Just being like,
Well, I don't see how that matters.
I don't understand the usefulness of this question. Like, Edie, we gotta talk. She's also so determined, and she talks about how, like, yes, the elusive man, like, kickstarted me, and Jeff gave me the ability to think for myself, but you're the reason that I feel alive. And that is such an intense thing to be told.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And, like, Edie's another character whose arc has been so incredible. From the spooky-ass Luna mission all the way to now, it's like she sounds more human every time you talk to her. And we even talked about this with Legion before Legion died, like, the same thing, you know. DC Douglas knew how to make that performance grow humanity through the performance. And Edie has done that as well. And I'm not mentioning Edie's voice actress just because the name escapes me, because of course it does, but it'll come back to me. But like, I love this character so much, especially this time through, because I don't think I bonded to her as much as I did this time. I took her on a lot of missions. I understood her growth and sense of humor and trying to be funny and failing all the time. And like, I just
Or does she fail?
Or does she?
Or do you just have a bad sense of humor?
Could be. But like this character cares so much about you, and like never in a minute did I think a synthetic fighting against synthetics is just as powerful, if not more so, because you want to prove you're not like them. And that's all EDA has had to do and other synthetics have had to do because of the Geth and the biases. She feels that strength in opposing the Reapers. It's like, there may be Reaper code that made me, but I'm not like them, and I want to prove it. We're going to destroy them. So yeah, I think that's it right now. After this, we talk to Anderson and we talk about the final push through No Man's Land. It's time.
It's time. Before the mission actually starts, Admiral Anderson tells you that he wants you to support the tanks as much as you can, but it's more important that you stay alive. He is very specific, like, I need you at the end. So, like, do what you can, but stay alive. That's the important thing. And he tells you to pick your team well, and you get this final opportunity to give a speech to your crew. And I chose the Paragon side of the speeches. It just made more sense because the Renegades were like, be ruthless. And I'm like, no, don't be ruthless. Like, fight. I guess fight ruthlessly, but like, be ruthless is a completely different tone. And that's not what I want. I want you to remember that the weapon we have is love, basically. Like, to quote one of my favorite Harry and the Potter songs, it's about this unity, this allyship, this camaraderie that we have. The Reapers don't have that. We do. And that's why we're going to win. And it was such a powerful moment to me. And, oh.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about that. So I think there are 3 choices. Like a lot of these speeches, you get to choose 3 times. And in the middle, I was Renegade. I chose Be Ruthless because, like, the way I've played the Shepherd and the experiences I've had, like letting Garrus take the shot in his mission in the second game and a few other things that felt a little colder, I'm brushing up against anxiety, frustration, fear, and anger, a thing that I go through my life actually genuinely dealing with. And I felt in that moment like I had no remorse for the Reapers. I want to be ruthless. The Reapers must be destroyed. There's irony in that later. But like, I thought it felt right in that moment. But then I swung up to the Paragon side for the tail end of the speech. And I love that at the end of every game, you could think it's cliche. I love that they let you piecemeal a speech as Shepard.
I do too.
Oh, yeah, same.
I just think it's really cool, this idea that you could play through the game 8 times and the speech would never be the same because it has multiple parts.
It's personal. It's an intimate touch to something that could have just been manufactured.
Yes, I agree. And we already established that we took the same squad.
As part 1, yep.
I found it very peculiar that Anderson doesn't have, like, full-on armor.
Yeah, he's just walking with his assault rifle out, looking around.
You're about to be attacked by a lot of Reapers, my man. Daddy.
Everyone else is wearing armor. Why aren't you? We are now making the final push, and there's a Reaper in our way. Who cares, right? We've killed a couple of them already at this point. But because of how close this Reaper is to the beaming directly to the Citadel, the missiles can't target it. And fighting across No Man's Land, we hear different reports as people die and as tanks explode that the missiles aren't firing correctly. So when we get there, we have to find a way to get them to fire and hit this Reaper.
I have to say, it's really difficult to be following the parameters of the game, going where the game wants you to go, and listening to all of these people dying, and knowing there's literally nothing I can do about that. The game will not let me. I know that this is not a scenario where if I just move a little bit faster, it'll be okay. It's not going to be okay no matter what I do. The game is designed this way, but it's really upsetting.
Yeah. It's and it doesn't get better. It gets worse as time goes on.
It gets so much worse.
When we get to the final push, We find out that all the squads who were guarding the missiles had died. The missiles they had fired already won't target. We try and fire again using the Normandy's targeting, and the AD can still not connect. And we find out it is, as I said, because the Reaper is too close to that beam and it's distorting things. So Shepard, of course, constantly courting danger, was like, well, I guess we've got to let it get closer.
Tally was so upset. Like, her voice was rife with fear and panic and grief. She was completely losing it.
Yeah. James was not happy about it. He kind of questioned you in the way he's always questioned you, but of course we'll always go along with it because he, at the end of the day, follows your command. And after this decision is made, you now fight wave after wave of boss enemies for the most part, until the missiles are ready, and then you fire them again. This time, they hit the Reaper and kill it, and then everyone else opens fire on it, and it goes down. This is one of the most stressful sequences in the entire game. I died a lot because I kept trying to get fancy with Vanguard Charge. It's really stressful, especially with the Banshees that can insta-kill you, which I often forget, and they sneak up behind me, and then you're dead.
Playing this on Insanity was probably the most stress I've ever been.
I don't even want to think about that.
It was not great, y'all.
Oh my God.
I played Insanity for the achievements, not because I was actually good at combat. So
yeah. No, I play narrative mode for a reason.
Yeah, but it gives you that hecticness because for the final button push, the waves don't end. You just have to get to the button push and hit the button. And you do. And then you reunite with Anderson, who picks you up. And now it's time for the final push.
My favorite two lines is someone says to you, "It gets worse." And Shepard's like, "Oh, of course it does."
Yeah. Yep.
Of course it does. Harbinger's coming.
Yes. And Shepard said, like, Harbinger. Like a nemesis.
Harbinger.
Yeah, so this final push, you find out that a lot of squads have been killed. The tank you're in crashes, and so you have to go on foot, avoiding Reaper fire. And this is one of the coolest and most intense moments in the game. Now, I know a lot of it is programmatic. I don't think you can die here, but I don't know. I've never tested it. But, like, you're dodging Reaper fire, you're dodging other tanks, other soldiers.
Zag on him.
You zag on him. And then there's a final moment where you get... before the final moment, there's a moment where a tank gets blown up, two tanks flip, and your squad gets taken out.
Yeah. They get hurt real bad.
And so you call the Normandy in for a pickup, an urgent pickup, which they do. And of course, if you have your love interest with you in your party, as MJ and I do, you get a final conversation with them as they're being pulled away. And this is where I started to get real
happy.
Yeah, I got really upset. Kaden refused, yelling at you. I won't leave you. I can't lose you again. Ugh.
Yeah, Garrus, when you start to say, like, you have to leave, Garrus is like, Shepard says, "You've got to go." And Garrus says, "And you've got to be kidding me." No! But Tally's, like, pulling on him because Tally... I'm surprised that she's still alive. Her suit is ruptured all over the place. Like, you can see her flesh through the suit. She is a hot mess. And Garrus is, like, reaching back to you, and you have this final moment where you say, like, "I love you. I'm leaving." And Garrus says that he loves you too. And he's reaching out for you the whole time until, like, it's very clear that you're not coming back and they're not going to let him go. So he has to turn around because he can't do anything.
Yeah. The moment is similar with Kaden. James is holding him up and pulling on him. And you have the I love you too moment. And then Kaden goes, "Come back to me," and then gets pulled into the ship. And then you run off.
My God, Caden's lines. So
Caden's a toasted marshmallow. He's a soft boy, but he's also a little spicy.
And so this is at the part when I was playing that I was already starting to kind of come apart. But now we have the final push. You're running. You're so close to the beam, and you take a direct hit from a Reaper blast, and everything goes black.
Everything goes white.
Oh, really? I thought.
Yes.
Oh, you're right. It does. Everything does go right. and then gets hazy.
Yes. Shepard, barely alive, limps forward, gets shot once more because there's a marauder who's just like, no. And you have to like pathetically hold up your gun and just be like, please just die. Just let me get through. Poor Shepard, who's been through literally hell. Like just let me get to the beam.
Yeah, your armor is charred to the point where it's tight formed around you, most of it, chunks of it missing. I assume, because I customize my armor every time, that it got charred, so that's why it's black now, because my armor hasn't been black the whole damn game. Going on record saying pink.
Pink armor.
I do
squad
pink.
right
I've
here.
done white. I did Samus armor for my first FemShep playthrough with like big round shoulders and orange. Anyway.
I did the Cerberus Spirit armor because it gave me the highest damage for powers.
There you go. But yeah, so we make our final limps towards the beam and then white again as we get beamed up to the Citadel. We wake up in a red room, Anderson yelling in our ear.
It is a gruesome scene that we wake up into. There are dead bodies all around us. There is a keeper doing whatever it is keepers do. Being very creepily, like, nonchalant, going about its business. It's terrifying. But also, how does Anderson know that you're there?
He must have some kind of tracking or something. It's always a little, like, suspect.
Very sus.
So we talk to Anderson. We're trying to identify where we are, and we're both making a push for the Citadel controls to try and open the arms. And we walk through this section of the Citadel that you've never seen. It's all automated and kind of cold, right? The Citadel's always full of life when you're on it in these games. And it's cold and dark until you get to an open room. And then it's very like lifeless and metal. Yeah. And then we push through and we get to the pit that Anderson mentioned earlier. Anderson said that he sees a panel and he's going for it and cuts out, of course, because of course it does.
Of course. To give you anxiety.
And then you push forward and you see Anderson at the control. And here's where we have some of the final conversation moments in the game. You're approaching Anderson, and Anderson isn't moving. You call to him, and then he stiffens up and moves as someone being made to move.
He is indoctrinated, or he is being controlled. And then the man that we all hate appears.
So much.
The elusive man shows up, and he makes me shoot my dad.
Ugh.
I feel so much pain right now.
So I somehow missed some conversation bonus with the elusive man because I couldn't get the final diplomatic response. I got the first two, and then the final one I couldn't get. So I had to kill him. And I did, and I'm happy about it. Fuck the elusive man.
Fair enough.
You did this to yourself, you dumbass.
Yeah, I got all three, which when you do that, much like a nod to the first Saren conversation, or the final Saren conversation in the first game, the elusive man briefly realizes what he's done and kills himself.
You know what? I'm glad I didn't get it. I don't want him to take that joy from me. I got to shoot him.
This whole moment is so complicated. I don't know. I think that the elusive man being the true villain in the end, and pitting you against Anderson, like, I understand what they were trying to do here, but I'm complicated by how it was executed. I don't think it's bad necessarily, but I just, like, the whole thing feels awful, and I think that's the point, right?
I think that the elusive man, his motivations... The elusive man was a well-written character.
Yes.
We talk about how much we hate him, but that's because we hate him if he were a real person. As a character, he is very well-written, very well-developed. He loves Earth and humanity so much, but he loves it in a controlling way, in an abusive way. He wants it shaped to what he thinks is right. He doesn't want to just let it grow on its own. It's not a love of mutual respect. It's a love of power. It's a love just born out of wanting to control, which is his whole thing. He has to control everything, including the Reapers and including humanity. And this does not justify any of his actions at all. He's a terrible person.
Yes.
But he was incredibly well written.
Yes. I appreciate what this game is trying to do, is trying to wrap up 3 games worth of story, and it's good. There are going to be bumps along the way. We're not going to argue about the 3 colors. We're not going to argue about, what was wrong with this ending, because I think ultimately we have our complaints, but I genuinely like how this game ends. I like how Mass Effect 3 resolves this trilogy. The whole 3rd game is an ending to the series, not just these final moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's what I say all the time. Like, this is what bugs me, and I never understood, and I'm glad I wasn't online when the game first came out. I was always in love with the ending because I was like, okay, that's it. Like, that's what it is, because you got to wrap up everybody. All of the choices that you ever made did matter. They just mattered.
Yes,
in each act
it's a game
of the game
filled with resolutions. It's not one final resolution. It's a series of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, that said, of course, we're playing the extended cut ending because that's what we have. The original ending is no longer available.
Right. Before we get to meeting the Catalyst, I just want to have a moment of grief for my dad, who sits there with you, looking as the Crucible docks, as the arms open, and he says, "You did good, child. I'm proud of you."
Yeah. It's just...
And he just dies right next to you.
They wrote that relationship so well. The scene where it's behind them, looking out at the stars, and he goes, and Shepard goes, "Well, the view is nice." Like, it's just such a beautiful moment. I mean, there is no secret that we are all Keith David stans here. We love him, and his performance here is absolutely phenomenal. And these final moments are absolutely heartbreaking. And then, as it seems like Shepard also might die here as the things end.
Shepard is dying, and they still need them to do something.
Hackett's there. The Crucible's not firing. It must be something on your end. Shepard, I just have one more thing. The Alliance needs
one more thing. I threw a dart on a board. I have another mission for you.
The pain here, the distortion here. So Shepard is saying words, but can't even really see their mouth moving. Like, they're just talking, almost as if narrating the moment. Like, speaking in their head, almost like they can't actually say the words. They're too pained, too wounded, but they're crawling towards this platform trying to do something, and then they collapse, and the platform lifts to a different part of the Citadel where we meet the Catalyst.
The creepy little boy.
Creepy little boy.
Creepy little boy child.
And in this moment, we are given 3 options, and it explains what those 3 options are, as well as finding out about who the Catalyst is, what the Catalyst's purpose is, what the Crucible's purpose is.
Which are things that we learned from the Leviathan DLC.
Yeah. And also that why Shepard has to make this choice, because Shepard made the Crucible happen and is completed, and that's never happened before. And so things can never go back to the way they were. A choice must be made. My only one gripe about the choices, which are control, synthesis, or destroy, is when the Catalyst is explaining them and they show an example of what you need to do for 2 of them, control and destroy. It shows the Elusive Man and Anderson. What I don't like about that is, to me, that labels the Anderson choice is the good choice, the Paragon choice, and the Elusive Man choice is the Renegade choice. It's more complicated than that, but coding it that way with the still images feels like an oversimplification, and that bums me out. Because I will say on record here, I don't think there's a right answer here. I think there's a preferred answer. But I don't think there's a flat-out right answer, and that's the beauty of this game and all the choices that came before it, which is why that's my only gripe about the ending, is having those images codes it as good and bad, which is an oversimplification of the Paragon Renegade system anyway.
Let's talk about what each of these outcomes does.
Yes.
So, destroy, which shows Anderson. All synthetics will be targeted, including the Reapers, Edie, the Geth, and people who have synthetics inside of them, keeping them alive, like Shepard. Yes, it will destroy the Reapers, but also you'll be committing mass genocide. So, is that a lesser of the evils? Let's find out. Control shows the Elusive Man. We do get confirmation that he was definitely indoctrinated. If Shepard chooses control, they will be dissolved, and the Reapers will become agents for their will and their morality and their desires. Much like what Legion did for the Geth, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that comparison.
And then synthesis, you add your energy to the Crucible to completely rewrite all life to combine organic and synthetics to guarantee peace going forward. It is called an ideal solution, the catalyst.
Right. Before MJ and I get into our choices, Kate, do you remember what your ideal choice was? We can't ask this to any other guest. This is the last episode of the season of the trilogy. So do you have an ideal choice here? Or if not, what's the more memorable choice that you've made?
So I actually like what you said about the coding that happens with the pictures, because it is something that kind of, I feel like it adds a little bit to it because of where Anderson is. Like, I did synthesize, and I did all of them different. Like, I've done all of them because none of them feel good. Like, none of them, like, and I think that that's the power of the ending, because as Shepard, like, you have had to make many decisions, and while those choices have felt great in some times, and they were the easy ones, other ones were, you didn't know if it was right. But I think the hardest one to do was the death one, because I knew that it was going to target the people that I had saved, that I had, you know, who were my crew, the people who I refused to kill the first time around. And I felt for me the synth one was the easy answer, kind of. Easier answer than the other ones. But for me, and it goes back to me saying, like, why I didn't really understand why everybody was mad, was because it was one choice. It is one choice. And I remember, you know, it's just hard. I can't talk about this eloquently. This is the first time I've talked about these choices in, like, forever, y'all. Yeah, synth is what I did, but the death one was the hardest. It's the one that stuck, like, the most.
One of the downfalls of the entire series is there is sometimes a lack of nuance in choices, where a choice is almost what you would do, but there is just some element of it that doesn't work in some way.
Exactly.
And that's what all of these have. Like, destroy would be great if it did not also kill the Geth and Edie. Like, synthesize would be great if you could maybe talk to people and get a feel for what they think about it before you completely rewrite everybody without their consent.
Yep. And then control is like, okay, sure, but I will cease to exist and the Reapers will still be around, so if the control ever goes away, we're screwed anyway.
Well, for me, the problem with control was not that. That wasn't a concern, because the implication to me was that the Reapers become
That's
you.
True, yeah.
And, like, you were just them forever.
Yeah.
The question is, are you good enough of a person?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, because if they're going to operate on your moral compass and you were a renegade the whole time, or were a renegade in certain dire moments, what if the Reapers made those choices because of you? Then you're the problem. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like, in order for control to be even remotely acceptable, you have to be, like, so confident in your ability to always do the right, kind, empathetic thing.
Yep.
And can we, as fallible humans, say that we are always kind?
No.
I can say we try.
Sure.
But, like, we're human. We fail. That's the point.
Yeah. So,
control was completely ruled out for me because of that. It took me 40 minutes to decide last night. So, by that metric, everybody is dead and the Reapers move on to a news cycle.
Because you froze.
But because time is a construct and I was able to sit for 40 minutes, I had to, like, read up on other people's like takes on it just to see like what the arguments were, and they were arguments that were already in my head, so I don't know why I did that, because I was just like, oh yeah, this person said this exact thing that I was thinking. Yep.
Yep.
And I struggled. Destroy meant committing genocide. It meant destroying like people who have synthetics, just keeping them alive. Like, that's too high of a price to pay. But then also, synthesis, if you're rewriting everyone and not giving them a chance to consent, and, like, that's a big decision for one person to make.
Yeah, I struggled with the same thing. Control was off the table for me also. I didn't take as long. I only took about, 5-10 minutes, but I think it's also because I knew what I wanted to.
You also had a time crunch.
I also had a time crunch because I was doing it before we recorded today.
I did this last night and stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning crying.
But I struggled with this choice too, for all the same reasons. So I think, MJ, why don't you reveal what you chose first, then I'll reveal what I chose, and then if they're the same or if they're different, we'll each talk about them. If they're the same, then we'll talk about it together.
Okay, I chose synthesis.
I also chose synthesis.
Okay.
It's a little behind the curtain. As I said earlier, I did finish my Legendary Edition playthrough before this, and I chose Destroy in that playthrough because I felt it at the time. But
right.
the thesis of this podcast, and I'm actually not surprised we chose the same thing, knowing how we've played this game, but the mission statement of this podcast has always been, we're making the choices as if we were Shepard. But I think it's safe to say that this choice is almost impossible to imagine. Every other choice up until this point is rooted in some kind of realistic comparison that we can like logic our way through.
Yeah. I absolutely cannot imagine having to be the person to make this decision. I shouldn't be the person to make this decision. That shouldn't be me.
Yeah, it takes me back to the House Divided, the Geth decision. Like, that shouldn't have been Shepard. It should have been someone else. And this on an even grander scale. But at the end of the day, based on the character I've built that's based on me, genocide was just a no-go. We preached about going against and not committing genocide our entire playthroughs as these characters. And while synthesis is absolutely removing the right to choose and an in-depth invasion of privacy and personal space, it was the decision that I could morally make.
Yeah.
Is how I came to it. That one is a decision I could morally make. I couldn't morally justify genocide on any level for this playthrough.
I'm like really thankful that y'all explained Control the way that you did, because even when I gave you my choices, it was death and it was destroy and synth, and Control has never really been on my plate, and I feel like I understand a little bit more why, because I just can't ever, like, I trusted my shop and everybody trusted my shop, but that was too big of a burden. So I really like hearing y'all talk about why you made your choices and why that one was a no for both of you.
One of the things that kept me, like, struggling with this decision for so long was because, as I said, I try and put myself in the position, which means thinking about my spouse, John. And it was really difficult to think about a future in which we're not going to share. Like, making one of these decisions is effectively choosing a future for him because I'm not going to be there to share in it.
Yeah.
And what is the best possible future I can give him? And I chose synthesis because it's a chance for peace. It's a chance for unity. It gives me the opportunity to save everything, to save everyone. And isn't that what Shepard's been trying to do this entire time?
Yeah.
I know for a fact, not only Anderson, but Garrus would have chosen Destroy. And as much as it disappoints my space spouse, I couldn't make that decision. And even if it means never seeing the people that I love again, if I have no hope to survive, then my last act will have to pave the way for a peaceful future.
That's very well said, and more or less how I felt as well. This is the last choice we'll ever make on this podcast for this trilogy, and that's a lot. Before we wrap up, there's a few final things. So Shepard, if you choose synthesis, dives into the beam and slowly disintegrates as their DNA becomes the catalyst to rewriting everyone else's DNA. And it flashes photos of folks you've lost. Anderson, Legion.
Thane. And
then you disappear, and it darts around the galaxy, showing this green blast go off, freeing husks for the first time from being monsters. They have a moment where they get up and they just sit in awe with the soldiers. It shows Reapers leaving as they get hit with this green beam as well. And then it shows the Citadel open up completely like a flower as it fires this green energy into the mass relay, destroying it and sending it across all of the galaxy. Assumingly doing this to everyone, rewriting everyone's DNA. It shows the Normandy trying to escape the blast, Joker not wanting to leave, and then Garrus making Joker leave, which makes sense if any character on that ship was going to be the hard hand to make Joker leave Shepard behind.
For me, it was Ashley and Trainer.
Really? It was Ashley and Trainer. For me, it was Garrus
Probably
and Trainer.
Probably because you didn't bring Garrus with you, so Garrus was healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And Garrus and Tally had been injured.
That's right. That makes sense. But Ashley also is the kind of like hardened person that would also be able to make that call. But the Normandy doesn't escape this blast. It gets hit with it. It crash lands. But then we see Joker get off the ship surviving, and Edie gets off the ship with him. And they hold each other. And gives me like this warm feeling that I've never felt. And then, because this is the extended cut, there is a narration after. And Edie talks about being alive.
I really liked Edie's narration.
It's beautiful, and talks about what it means to be alive and what this meant for the changes, what these changes mean. And then they show a scene where in the memorial on the Normandy, Anderson's name is already there. And for me, it's Caden. I'm sure for you it was Garrus, holding Shepard's nameplate.
Which, by the way, kind of messed up that everybody else gets their first name, but you don't.
Yeah, what's that about?
Yeah. Like, logically, I know game design, meta, whatever, but isn't it a little messed up? Isn't it?
It's a little bit. And different characters I know do different things. Caden looks at it for a while, runs his hands across it, and then puts it up. What does Garrus do?
He basically does that, but like it takes him a while.
Yeah, and that's it. The game.
Does Edie hug Caden?
Yes.
Yeah, Edie hugs Garrus too.
And Edie smiles.
The very last line Edie has is, "I am alive, and I am not alone." Yeah.
Yeah.
I cried for like half an hour, and I was really upset that John was in bed and like couldn't wake up and hear all of my feelings about like, this was such a difficult decision. It meant leaving behind Garrus, and like I think about you, and could I sacrifice myself for your future, and like a future where we're not together. It's so selfish, but I would raise cities for you.
Yeah, I did this while my partner was out. She was running errands, and so I sat and quietly cried for 10 minutes on my couch and then kind of pulled it together. That, on top of the crippling anxiety I had all day, made for a real fun mix after finishing this game.
I've actually listened to y'all talk. I have not had the chance to play through the Legendary Edition yet because I haven't had time to do anything that I'm not reviewing. But when I played this, I had a boyfriend, but it wasn't, I wasn't in love with him. I knew I wasn't in love with him. He was a man. But now I'm married and I've been with him for 8 years, and I wonder what playing this game would be like with new Kate, but also like what these romantic connections would be, and like how I would react, because I haven't had this Kate who has like somebody who I would die for, and I would, I don't know like how that would, I need to know. And thank you all, because now I really need to just go play through it, because I need to know. I genuinely do, like that, because it hit me like a truck already. So
with that added weight,
I'm gonna be crying. Okay. Sorry, I'll stop rambling. I'm like processing this in my brain as
You're
you
not
all
rambling.
talk. So
You're great.
Yeah, you're amazing. You're lovely. Yeah, I mean, well, we talk about that in previous episodes, but like I've I guess always, as far back as I can remember, been queer, but wasn't out queer when these games first came out, and definitely not in touch with my queerness in the way that I am now. And so like my relationship with Caden is absolutely an exploration of something that I wouldn't have seen before. It of course doesn't mean I love my wonderful wife any less, but like I also, Kate, am eager to know what Kate of the now would do and decide. And that was kind of the thesis of this whole podcast when MJ came up with it, is like, we want to make the decisions as us, because when we first made these decisions,
We were different people.
we were snot-nosed brats who didn't know shit.
Speak for yourself.
And so
I know you were a brat.
but like it adds so much weight. And yeah, I'm satisfied with the synthesis ending. It's hard, and after the credits roll, you can hit a button and then you get a final moment with what sounds like a grandfather and a son talking about the shepherd and going to the stars. It's a tender moment between family members. I, as an uncle now, can see this kind of moment happening with a nephew, which made it even harder. And that's it. Then the game ends. That is the end of the Mass Effect trilogy.
But not the end of our podcast.
No. We are going to... there's going to be no Fandom Corner this week.
So the reason why I wanted to skip Fandom Corner is because we had a big conversation. I really don't want to draw out the episode anymore, and it doesn't feel right to talk about like consumerism in light of all this heavy emotional talk. But I also feel like as we're finishing the Mass Effect trilogy, Fandom Corner is kind of at the end of its usefulness.
Yeah.
And it may come back if something like really cool comes up, but there will be fewer Fandom Corners in the future, I think.
Yeah. But we will not wrap up the episode without giving Kate our new tradition. Kate Sánchez. Pick a character.
I'm just going to say Daddy Thane because I like saying Daddy Thane.
What is one of your favorite dreams that you can remember?
Oh, why the hell did I pick this? Like literal dream, like a dream I had. So I don't remember my dreams.
Do you want to pick a different one?
Yeah, because like I have night terrors and stuff. So
Yeah.
like literally
Same.
the only dreams I can remember are the nightmares. So like, yes, different question. Let's give Kasumi some love then.
Okay, Kasumi. I believe that's have you ever stolen anything?
Yeah.
Can you talk about it? Has the statute of limitations expired?
It has. I have not stolen anything as an adult unless you count reading manga illegally and then purchasing it because I didn't want to spend the $100 outright to buy 10 volumes of something. No, so I was just a kid who like took stuff from Walmart because I knew that we were poor and my mom wouldn't buy it for me. So if I could take it, I would. A lot of it was just like makeup that I knew I could never get, or like there were like little things like that. Cause like,
Yeah.
it's weird. Cause like none of it, I mean, it was all like, didn't need any of it, but all of it was like I can't ask my mom for this because she's going to say that like we don't have money, or like my mom's response would also be like, that's for white people. And I'm like, well, okay. She would say that about like random things. Like, what was one of them? Oh, there was like this hot pink nail polish that I wanted. And she was like, that's for white people. And I was like, what?
I love that.
That doesn't make sense. That doesn't track, Mom.
Or like my mom would not buy me, like she refused to buy me like eyeliner or like lip liner or anything because she's like, you're not a chola. So she wouldn't buy it for me. So like, okay. And so then I just took it from Walmart.
Like you do.
That was that.
Matt, I believe you told a story about having stolen things from Sam Goody. Is that correct?
That is correct.
my memory?
I mean, that and all the hearts that I steal. Sorry. Or
the jokes that you steal, because I made that joke the last time we had this.
Also, I do not condone piracy of manga. It's very accessible now, but some things just don't get translated right away. And I need to read it. but I will buy the things when they are officially out. I feel bad now. I feel bad saying that I still do that, but I do make sure to support the creators.
I have totally never downloaded ROMs of games that are completely inaccessible by Nintendo unless you have a specific platform. I would never do that to recently... I would never do that to have recently replayed Metroid Zero Mission, which isn't available anywhere except on the Wii U. I would never do that.
The funny thing is, running a site where we cover anime and manga, like, the copyright is really... So, like, anytime we post a still or anything, it has to have a copyright from the company, because Japanese copyright law is 10 times worse than American, or, like, more strict than American. And I'll complain about it, and my husband will just be like, it's people like you are why it's like this. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, no, you know what I'm saying. I was like, yeah. I'm sorry.
My only book pirating is sanctioned. Because K.A. Applegate was like, yeah, no, the books aren't available anywhere. Go download them. Here's the website. Here you go. Please go download and read the books.
Amazing.
So, yeah. I was annoyingly a goody two-shoes when I was younger. My best friend was not, and she would steal from Hot Topic all the time.
Of course.
And she would then tell her mom that the things that she had stolen from Hot Topic were things that she had borrowed from me.
Oh, no.
Now, listeners, in case you've never seen pictures of me, I am a plus-size person. I've always been plus-size. I've always been on the bigger side. My best friend was like a third my size, and she would steal things in her size. So, it would not add up.
Oh my gosh.
So her mom would be like, so MJ has this size small tank top and let you borrow it. That seems sus, Amanda.
Wow.
It was a short phase. It didn't last super long. And also when, like, her mom asked me about something and I was confused about it, that put an end to it real quick of Amanda lying and using me in her lie. Because you can't tell a lie and then not tell me that you told a lie that includes me.
If you're gonna lie, there has to be a consensus across all parties involved.
You need to make sure that I know that I am also lying.
I need to know that I'm lying. Please tell me.
So, that's my story about thievery.
Also, as an aside to Scanlation still being a thing, or I guess Fanlation still being a thing, there is this one person who uploads individual chapters of, and now the thing is officially licensed on a webcomics platform, and they will not, and the fan translation is about 20 episodes ahead. So that's 20 weeks that you have to wait to get the official one. But because you can actually pay, that uploader will not upload until they get sent 50 screenshots of people buying at least one chapter. And it can be any chapter, but you have to buy a chapter, and then they will upload the next chapter that was, like, originally in Korean. Which, like, it's still not giving the artist all the money, but also, like, at least they're, like, using their uploader power for, like, some sort of good. And then, like, at the end of the chapter, they'll post all the screenshots to, like, show, like, here are the 50 people that...
Which is ultimately in the spirit of Kasumi, which started this.
Yes, that's true.
It works out.
It does work out. In the spirit of brevity, we were going to read a fan email today, but I think we'll save it for our next episode.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is our final episode, our final official episode.
Of the season.
Of the season. Yes, I was getting there. Some suspense. I was drumming up suspense.
Please don't let people think that we're ending the show for good. We're not.
We're not. No, the next episode will be our final episode of this season and of the Mass Effect trilogy. There might be some other episodes this season, some fun bonuses that we're working on, let's say. They're not done yet. But we are going to do a wrap-up of the entire trilogy. It's just going to be me and MJ, like the early episodes. And we are going to give our thoughts on the trilogy, how it holds up, some Legendary Edition thoughts, additional. But we do have plans for a Legendary Edition episode at some point. We haven't figured out how we're going to tackle it yet. That might not be till next season. We'll see. But tune in next time for that, our wrap-up and thoughts on the trilogy. And in that episode, we will also discuss, although a lot of you have guessed online, what the next game we are covering will be. So tune in for that. Now, I would like to take a moment and thank our incredible guest, the awesome Kate Sánchez. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun. And it reminds me of all the things that, like, there's so much distance between me and the last time I played my favorite game that I really do need to go back, because, like, just hearing y'all read things or talk about the lines, I was getting teary-eyed, and I'm just like, some things just sit with you. And this sits with me, and the character relationships sit with me, and I really need to see what adult Kate who has formed real, meaningful human connection with another human being does in these situations.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about that as you do it. Kate, why don't you let folks know where they can find you and the stuff you work on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me at ohmymythrandir on Twitter. That's my main source of me being Kate. And if you are into manga and anime, and especially yaoi, you can head on over to my Instagram, same handle, ohmymythrandir. And you can find all of my work at But Why Though PC. Our website is butwhythoughpodcast.com. And if you want to join our community in our Discord, it's discord.gg/butwhytho.
Definitely join the Discord. I am there. My love of K-pop and J-pop and pretty much any kind of pop music and himbos has come from Kate. So if you want to learn more about that stuff, like BTS and Stray Kids and so many
Wonho.
And Wonho.
You can't forget Wonho.
Can't forget Wonho. How could I? Come to that Discord. But yeah, Kate does some awesome stuff. Check out. Kate was also a previous guest on Screen Snark not that long ago, so you can go check that out as well. But now it is time to thank some folks and wrap up.
Yep. If you like what you heard here, you can follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server and join in the conversation. Alas, the conversation on the Citadel DLC and keeping secrets from me is over, but we have not gotten to the next thing we're going to cover yet, so there are some more secrets to be had in that game I have not played. I don't know why I'm being so secretive about it now. We've been teasing it for ages, but hey, I'm going to stick with the shtick.
If you join our Discord, you will see that there is a thread that says blank Matt keep out. That's where you go. I have a survey for you so you can predict what Matt's outcome is going to be in that game. So I'm also going to post it on Twitter when we make the official announcement. Matt and I work on some other projects. The project I want to plug right now is Archives of the Dragon. We have launched a new show and I'm on it! It's called Project Trailblazer. It's set in the aftermath of the Mass Effect Andromeda game. 3 aliens and 1 AI must work together to explore the unknown beyond the Helios cluster. It's a grand adventure with plenty of humor and heart, and you can check that out every other Monday on twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon.
I work on a lot of really cool stuff as well. You can find all of it at djstormageddon.com. You can go there for my Twitch stream, my merch page, all of the podcasts that I produce and host, and much, much more. I want to shout out specifically my interview podcast, CPOV Autographs. I've had some really awesome and fun guests lately. And if you have any guest suggestions, we have a channel on the Discord where you can suggest some guests, or just hit me up at mr.matt.storm@gmail.com.
All right. We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband for developing more amazing t-shirt designs that you can find at certainpov.com or on Teespring.
Thank you to David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. And finally, thank you to Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect map for our theme music. It has seen us through 3 wonderful years.
Yes, he doesn't have a song for Andromeda, so we might have to find something else.
I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Kate Sánchez. You should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Nostalgia is one of the strongest forces in the human psyche and is responsible for the continued existence of some of our favorite fandoms. From the minds behind the Dole Up in Dreams podcast and Isolation Cast Voices from Quarantine, Saturday Morning Confidential takes you on a deep dive into the properties that helped influence the artists and creators of today. So whether you are a Goonie, a Gem Girl, a Digi-Destined, or you just want to return to Oz, new episodes release on Fridays bi-weekly starting January 1st of 2021, and join us on the Wednesdays after the main show for the Serial Killer Radio Hour, where we sit down with the people responsible for the toys, shows, and fandoms that you love. Now you can find Saturday Morning Confidential at certainpov.com/SMCpod or on your favorite podcast platforms. So don't forget to tune in for another deep dive into the files of Saturday Morning Confidential.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.